Wow, did you hear that crowd? And they give us a standing ovation, man. We're gonna have a bad band. Wow, we had them eating right out of their hands, huh? Wow, we're gonna be big, man, really big, man. We're gonna like be bigger than Ruben and the Jets, man, I bet you. Shoot. All we gotta do is keep practicing, man, you know? Like, just keep it together. Wow.
Here it is, the Bakotunes podcast with Matt Munoz. Audio brought to you by Chain Cone Clark.
Greetings, Bakotunes listeners. It's your host, Matt Munoz here. It's a new year and a new episode to kick off 2026 in style. Today, I'll be joined by Piero F, Giunti, creator and curator of A Great Day in East L.A., Celebrando the Eastside Sound, an amazing exhibition currently running now through August 23rd, 2026 at La Plaza de Culturas y Artes in downtown Los Angeles. I've always had a bit of a soft spot and a fascination with East Los Angeles. It's given birth to some of my favorite musicians and bands, Los Lobos, The Midnighters, Ozo Motley, The Black Eyed Peas, to name a few. But it was also a home away from home during the early years of my band Manto Buru. It was in East L.A. where we would get booked for gigs held in random warehouses off of Cesar Chavez Boulevard and in neighboring Echo Park Silver Lake, playing at all hours of the night. They were art and poetry shows mixed with music, culture, and politics. It was a fiery, funky, and soulful scene where everybody was welcome to add their sound to the rhythmic stew. All you had to do was be cool. Promoters like the late Eddie Ayala of the band Sugar Skull and my homie Luis Correa of Steady Beat, both of whom extended us invite after invite to share our talents, were ever present. And off we would go in a caravan of 5 to 6 cars over the grapevine to go have a blast with our East L.A. homies. Then it was back home at 4 a.m. the next day, exhausted but looking forward to doing it all over again in a couple weeks. As you're about to hear, Piero and I have a lot in common. We're both musicians, and we both see the value of preserving the legacy and art given to us by bands like Los Lobos, The Midnighters, and Tierra. Going even further back, there's also pioneers such as Lalo Guerrero, who's known as the godfather of Chicano music. Oh yeah, and his son Mark Guerrero, whose band Tango shared similar experiences navigating the music industry during a time when the brown sound wasn't as popular with the suits of the biz. How about these band names? Los Abandoned, Quetzal, Upground, Marble, The Brat, The Plugs, Alice Bag, Aslan Underground. East Los Angeles has always been a force in the history of rock and roll and hip-hop. Now, you can take your own stroll and see what makes it so special with photos, rare archives, music, and more. But before you do, grab a cool drink and settle into your easy chair. Let's take a trip down to La Plaza de Culturas y Artes for A Great Day in East L.A., Celebrando the Eastside Sound with my guest, Piero F. Giunti, here on Bakotunes. Welcome to the show, Piero.
Matt, thank you for having me.
Man, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. Many, many reasons, because, I mean, we have so many conversations. I was trying to figure out, man, when I finally have him on the show, what are we going to talk about? Because the last conversation we had a few days ago, we were talking on the phone, and I just wanted to share some little tidbits with about an artifact that I'd found I knew that you would be interested in. That short phone call turned into about a 2.5-hour phone call about so many things, and every time we were trying to get off the phone, it was like one more thing. I was like, all right, this is a brother I need to talk to. So I'm so happy to speak to you. Before we kick into some obvious questions about the exhibition going on right now, which I have visited and I love, I want to get some background about you and your connection to the interconnecting roots of the project. Okay, so we're going to bounce around a little bit, and I'm going to try to include as much as I can, because of course we want to talk about the exhibition. But you know, to me, and I know you're like me, we're historians and we geek out on this, and once we start talking about it, it leads into another conversation. But I think the first thing I want to know is, like, where does life begin for you in Southern California? Where are you from?
So I grew up all over LA. From the Valley to Los Angeles, and it's been one of those things that I've bounced around all over the Valley, from Pacoima to Arleta to Burbank to Hollywood, and other parts of Los Angeles as well. And I grew up with parents. My mom's Mexican, my dad's Italian, but I grew up with both cultures very strong in my life. And I have a father who was madly in love with also the Mexican culture. And I, one day I asked him, why do you why do you love the Mexican culture so much? He's like, look, and he's like, look, I'm Italian, and I'm Southern Italian specifically. For the Italians that know why I say Southern Italian, they know. Is that and he's like, just culturally, it's so beautiful and rich, and he's like, that's why I married your mom, because outside of just I loved her, she's also the culturally was amazing. So I grew up with both cultures very strong in my house, and then and art and music has been part of my life as well. So I gravitated towards towards the arts. I'm a musician and photographer and filmmaker, and everything else in between.
So you're growing up in a Mexican and an Italian household. Now, was your father? What part of Italy is your father from?
My dad's from Calabria, which is if you look at the boot of Italy, it's a little bit below the ankle. And I grew up also with the history of Italy, which in many ways there's comparisons to what's going on with the Latino community and with Latinos as well. Is that a lot of culturally, the south of Italy is everything that everything that most people know that is Italian came from the south. And then when they had, sorry, here comes the history nerd in me, is that with they call it the reunification of Italy, which was a lot of BS. But they basically went down with the king of northern Italy, with France and England, went down to southern Italy, destroyed everything, pillaged everything, brought it back to the north, and then said it was theirs. So yeah, so if when people ask, io sono 100% terrone, so they know what that means, and that means that I'm 100%. I consider myself a 200%er, 100% Italian and 100% Mexican, and terrone just means uh, it's kind of like the derogatory term that the Northerners would call the Southerners, but they took it back and they made it into something to be proud of. So
Yeah. So two very passionate, very uh, two cultures rich in art and foods, of course.
yeah,
Mexicans love Italian
yeah,
food. Italian people love
yeah.
Mexican food, and so man, so you're raised with like just a rich sense of history and culture in your household. Now let's jump right into music because, as you said, you mentioned that you're a musician, and we're going to get to kind of some of the endeavors that you did and your kind of your role in the Los Angeles music scene and East L.A. But when does
Yeah.
music come into your life? What are your parents listening to? Because that obviously is going to be like it was for me. Is those are our earliest influences, or what we kind of maybe we weren't paying attention to, but subconsciously we were being influenced by what we were listening to on
Yeah.
Saturdays
Yeah.
and Sunday nights when the family is over. But tell me about that in your house.
I grew up, so I jokingly say that I have a hippie father and a disco queen mother. So I literally grew up with everything. So I have, with my dad, I have classical music, opera, and rock and roll that I'm listening, and yeah, and even world music with my dad. And then with my mom, it's all the English, uh, what you would hear in Southern California, like Carrot 101, which is all the oldies. You have the oldies in Spanish, the stuff from the 70s, the 80s, everything, and Mexican music as well. But even with my dad was is a huge Javier Solis fan as well. So I'm listening to Javier Solis, to Los Panchos, and yeah. So I grew up with everything, and at my earliest memory of music within the home is literally grabbing the chair from the dinner table, parking it right in front of the speaker, the radio, because my dad had like the surround sound speakers and all this stuff, and parking it right in front, putting on the classical music, and just becoming the conductor. And that was me as a kid, just waving the wooden spoon around, conducting the orchestra. And then I grew up with people, as you do, living in California and mostly Southern California and Los Angeles. You grew up with people from all over the world. So I grew up with Middle Eastern music, African music, everything. I just love it all, man. So that's why when I got older, I gravitated to people like Mano Chao. That
Mm-hmm.
was mixing everything.
Yeah. So the music programs that you grew up with over there, like in, I don't know what school district would be because,
Yeah,
everybody's kind of nomadic. You've kind of bounced around. You've lived in different areas like that.
yeah,
But did you guys get a lot of support? Because I mean, I could tell you about mine. I'm from McFarland, and we had a very very small music program that we the music educators had to go over there and fight and beg and plead with the superintendent to get funding for programs or get us new school uniforms and all that stuff. Our moms were making enchiladas and tacos on the weekend to help us get new uniforms and all that stuff. But what was it like in the school system? Because that's where you get your primary music education. What was it like?
I was lucky enough to have school, and my wife and I both grew up in the same school district, and she's like, I'm sometimes ashamed to bring up where the majority of my schooling went, and she's like, dude, even like she's like, it's not as the way you thought it was, because a lot of it was the same thing, is that fundraising, or the parents had to pay for all this stuff, and some parents didn't have the means to think, like you said, get the uniforms, get all the things that were needed. And I don't know, just because I think of the connotation of like saying Burbank, and mostly that I'm working on a project about East L.A. She's like, you have to remember that you also grew up with East L.A. and not only within the music at home, but you had family friends that you would go see all the time. So she's like, East LA has always been with you, and all over Los Angeles that you've had these experiences. So yeah, so even when it came to photography and music and film, I was lucky enough to or fortunate, I guess, to go to a school district that had all that. And again, a lot of the parents worked in the film industry. My parents didn't, and so that was a conversation I had with another photographer friend of mine, that I'm like, dude, like I didn't have that. I didn't have my parents were that nepotism of working, in the film industry, and I had them like
and show up on set and kind of follow them around and kind of toy around with some of the tools of the trade.
Yeah, it was the opposite. My dad would be working on their homes. My dad had a small construction company, and he'd be going to these people's houses, and seeing how they live, but never did they ever help me or anything. Like I was too rebellious as well, because by the time I was a senior in high school, I found Rage Against the Machine, and it made me really political. So
let me ask you, hold on. Sorry to interrupt you.
Here.
No, because once you said Rage Against the Machine. So what year did you graduate from high school?
2003.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now I'll know how to continue this conversation, because you know what? I normally do that, and I was just like, I feel like the first time that we spoke on the phone, I feel like I was talking to like somebody I've known all my life. Like, man, we kind of, and I was like, because we're both kind of talking about the same things. I'm like, obviously, this cat's a few years younger than I am. However, you have got a lot of experience under your belt. Okay, so this comes 2003. You discover Rage Against the Machine, who had already kind of been out for a while.
Yeah, I discovered him the summer of 2000. So right before the Democratic National Convention that happened in Los Angeles, I was working at the local city pool, and a family friend that also worked there. I've known him for years, but we never really talked a lot. And one day they're having a political conversation, and I jump in, and again, I feel that was the first time that I've ever really jumped into a political conversation, and I was able to hold my own. And, at the end of it, he comes up to me and says, hey, man, your politics are a lot like Rage Against the Machine. I'm like, who are they? And he's like, you don't know who they are? And I said, no. He's like, because you're really left in the way you think. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So he hands me all 3 CDs. And I always joke around. It's like, I describe it as when born-again Christians find the Bible and they say that, I found the Bible to change my life. I found Rage Against the Machine. And that completely changed my life, from being a rebel without a cause to finally being a rebel with a cause, and having a purpose of taking all that energy of being the desmadroso, as I was always called in school, because of my energy and just being bored.
Well, were you playing music, and I mean, were you in the band and doing all that stuff? So you were just kind of like your average kind of high school school musician, but then you also were playing with your bands in the backyard and stuff, like punk bands or anything like that. What was your kind of musical involvement? And photography, we can't forget about that, because that's very much a part of this conversation and the part of the exhibition. But where is photography and playing music, and what instrument were you doing at that time of your life?
The guitar has always been in my life, and the fast version of this, when I was a kid, we'd go to Tijuana all the time, and my parents would buy me a guitar. My dad, because of being so young, I'm like, yeah, my beautiful guitar. I put it on the couch and I cover it because my guitar needs to go to sleep. And my dad sat on it. So that didn't that ruined the guitar. And then fast forward until I was 13, my dad's like, oh, you want to play guitar? Like, let's go to the swap meet and grab you a guitar. It's like, okay. So I get like a swap meet guitar that's like for kids. That's actually playable. And so I get that, and I kind of stopped, and I didn't care for it much until my junior year in high school is when I finally decided to start a band. I was trying to join other people's bands, and no one wanted me. And my dad's like, "Well, dude, like if they don't want you, start your own thing." And I was like, "Oh, best lesson in life that I ever got." So I did. I started my own band, and it was a bit of a rage cover band. And yeah, then from there I took off, and then right after high school, I joined another band that became a full member of and started writing with them. And that was a band that I was telling you the other day about. We don't have to go into this story, but like how Rick Rubin wanted that band.
Yeah.
And
what was the name of the band?
It had two names. So the first version of it, when Rick Rubin wanted it, was Urban Menace, which is the way I describe it is like Metallica and Rage Against the Machine with Peruvian flutes and heavy Latin percussion. So there's
love that name.
Part. And then
So you're doing metal with kind of indigenous, kind of like Sepultura and Booyah.
Yeah, Booyah.
Remember Booyah?
Yeah.
So that was a thing. That was really a thing.
So I'll tell you this: at that time when I joined, I didn't know Puya or Sepultura. So like my life was, what was my life? My life was Rage Against the Machine, Metallica, Slayer, the other ones, and then just I came.
So the big four, all the metal, all the thrash.
Yeah, and I was like a huge Sublime fan as well, but I also came into the band with a like a classical world music edge to my playing, you know. So because we were all Chicanos in the band, and that's why I found it so interesting, because I'm like, wow, we're all Chicanos, but we're playing Peruvian music like with metal. So yeah, and then right after that, some of the members left, and we ended up creating the acoustic version of it. So before Rodrigo y Gabriela, the duo, that that they're metalheads playing acoustic guitars, we started doing that as well, and that we ended up opening up for like Tom Morello at the South Central Farm when they were having the protests there, and benefit shows. We'd play for them, and then we'd play around town, opening up for the Night Watchman, which is Tom Morello's side project. Yeah,
Tom Morello is a super cool guy to talk to. He's always the same. Every time that I've crossed paths with him, like we had a radio show, my wife, when we were just dating, we had a radio show, and then he was doing Night Watchman, and I think it was at Rock the Bells. It was at when he did Rock the Bells there. Super cool. And then when he showed up when he showed up and performed on the steps of the state capitol, when we did the march to Sacramento, the last one, and he was there. And he's and the one that the person who doesn't always show up is Zach De La Rocha.
You know what? I'm gonna defend him. Hold on. Well, go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
But I was just like, I always thought that I would run into Zach De La Rocha more at a lot of these functions than Tom. But it is what it is. I mean, I can't really speak on behalf of them. I just assume I would.
Well, you do run into him. It's just that you don't see him.
Mm-hmm.
it's because he's in the crowd, and that's one of the things that I've learned. And let me just say this: I met Tom. I forced my mom to take me to go see him speak at USC when I was in 10th grade, and ever since, like that day, he was there with his mom, and I mustered up the courage to go up to him for the first time ever and saying, "Hey, my name's Piero. I'm a photographer for a school newspaper. Do you mind if I photograph you?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And his mom was like, "Oh, cool." She's like, "Who'd you come with?" And I was like, "Oh, my mom." And she's like, "That's great. Where is she?" And I'm like, "Somewhere over there." I just kind of pointed. And she's like, "No, where is she?" And I pointed, and my mom waved. And she's like, "Tom, I'm going to go sit with his mom. You could sit here next to him." I was like, "Oh, shit." All right. So, ever since then, I would always see him at protests, and I made sure to say hi and stuff like that. And then out of nowhere, like, he's such a cool person that he ended up calling me up randomly one day, and he just says, "Hey, can you meet me at the House of Blues in Hollywood? I said, yeah, sure. He's like, what's it for? He's like, just bring your camera. Okay, cool. I show up and it's the like Fahrenheit 9/11 premiere after party, and it's like Joan Baez and Wyclef Jean, a bunch of other people, and I get to meet Michael Moore that day, one of my heroes and one of the reasons why I do the documentaries. And then fast forward, we're opening up for him, and I see that he's got doing the Night Watchman's thing, and he's got his guitar. And I said, hey man, can you hook me up with someone at Ibanez? I finally got this job, and I want to buy my own. And he's all like, dude, he's like, yeah, just send me an email. And I said, okay. So I sent him an email, and like 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from him saying, hey, there's a guitar with your name on it. Guitar Center, go pick it up. I'm like, oh shoot, okay, cool. How much is it? He's like, no, just go pick it up. Okay. So I go and I'm like, okay, how much do I pay you? And he's like, no, here you go, dude. So that's how cool of a person he is. And he's always been like, before he had kids, he would invite everybody, like whoever needed a place to go for Thanksgiving, the door was always open for him. I never went, but the invite was always there. But yeah,
and isn't his son playing with him?
Yeah. So like, dude, I haven't met the son when he was very, like, both kids when they were very, very young, but I'm the type of photographer too, like family comes around and the camera goes away, unless
yeah. No, no, go ahead. But so Zach De La Rocha.
To defend Zach De La Rocha a little bit. Mm-hmm. I get it. When we talk about the project, he's in it when we finally came. I get it. I get why he's also he's doing the work behind the scenes, and that was a conversation that he and I had, and I won't say much, but he is doing the work behind the scenes, and it's totally understandable why he does it like that.
Because they're going to end up they're going to pull the Rage Against the Machine reunion conversation into it, right? They're going to try to pull him into that, and so. I get it. And I don't always think about that, but I just like at certain times I'm like, hey, there's Tom. I'm kind of like looking around. Okay, where's the rest of the guys? Yeah. I think that's just natural because I am such a huge Rage fan. I had tickets for the show that they were going to do, and it was going to be, I can't remember what arena it was, and we were going to stay at the Watergate. Right there across the street, man. We had tickets, and then when COVID and everything just shut everything down, we had the tickets and boom, 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 and all that, and then then the tour's over. I mean, it just doesn't happen.
I'll just say this for anybody listening who's ever been in a band and who's been in a band that, look, I like when young musicians or people talk to me about being in a band, and they ask me, how is it, or I wish I was in a band. I tell them, I'm like, look. Just make sure your ego's in check and make sure you're all emotionally mature, which isn't possible without life experience, But I tell them, I'm like, go look at the Metallica documentary, because everything that's in that documentary is what I went through with my bands, and except $1 million. So it's the same thing. Like I'm telling you, after when I was kind of done playing music for a bit and I left all the like the last band that I joined, that was therapy for me to see. I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one going through this, and that's what every band goes through. And now that I work with a lot of bands, it's like, oh, you see it, and you can see the band dynamic, and there's stuff that it's like it's a band of brothers, brothers and sisters that you're not. I challenge any family dynamic that brothers and sisters don't argue or have some type of disagreement or don't talk to each other for a while. It's like you don't say good morning to each other every day, kind of a thing. It's just there's always some type of thing going on. So,
totally get it. No, I go through that too with my band as well. I think it happens a lot.
Politics in there.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So hold on a second though.
Break time. We'll be back. It's the Bakotunes podcast with Matt Munoz.
If you're injured at work, you need a team who knows the law. A team respected by our community and the legal industry. A team certified as specialists in work injury law. Chain Cone Clark, the team you need when it matters most.
Matt, this is it is Saturday, Oh, it's about 2:30. Listen, I got the word. The Lobos are making a movie about them, a documentary, and that their interest is in the licensing to the producers. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't like the way this is turning out. I have a lot of friends that are very loyal to me. I mean, I'm not saying we can't work something out, and I'm not saying that it's absolutely true. Maybe you don't know about the documentary, but trust me, my ears are all over East L.A. So we may have a problem here. Before I even mention it to my attorney, give me a call. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So hold on a second though, because photography obviously is a very, very important part of this.
Yeah.
So where does photography come into your life? Because, you kind of gave us a little bit about how music entered your life. It's kind of either through schooling and your family you did, but why photography?
So I was, my because of being that hyper kid that was very bored all the time but loved to learn, my parents would take me to museums. And I grew up also loving to open up the actual album covers from CDs or actual vinyls, just seeing the covers and the booklets and everything that comes with it. And I grew up with all that. So once I also so I gravitated towards, well, my sister was doing photography in high school, and I thought it was cool. And then so by the time I got to high school, because we're 5 years apart, my ninth grade year, I finally the family camera, which is a Canon AE1 program, the one that I would bounce off from my parents' bed, hoping that it would hit the ceiling, and became my best friend at that point. And so the moment that I took photography class, I never looked back, and I would carry that camera everywhere. It's been to millions of protests. It's been almost everywhere I've gone around the world. The camera still works, and it's still a tank. So I take photography class, and the first thing that I gravitate towards is sports and music. So, when you're in high school, people start joining bands or creating bands, and so the bands would play at lunch, and I would have the camera with me.
Yeah. Did you, I have a book by Edward Culver. I'm sure you know who he is.
Yeah, I have that book.
Yeah, the book, I bought it at the Warp Tour when they would, one of the last Warp Tours when they had like the old school stage, and he would be right there selling. And I have the book right there. It's right by my turntable with all my stuff. An amazing book.
Oh, beautiful.
And every time I post a picture of it, I'll tag him in. He goes, that's going for over $1,000 now. Meanwhile, do you have a copy of this book by me? And I'm like, I'll buy that too, bro. I promise I'll buy it from you. But
he has more than one. I thought he only had one. Which isn't it the one, like, isn't there like a guy crowd surfing on the cover?
Yeah, that's the one that I have. Yeah, and I think that's out of print. Yeah.
Oh, is it really?
I think that's what he was made. That's why he was saying it was so expensive. But yeah, I mean, when you look in there and like, oh my God, you did okay. So he did the Korn stuff. You did this lots of hip hop. I mean, he was the guy. And I remember he gave me his business card. He's all, do you like to play pool? Do you like good weed? He's all, give me a ring when you're in L.A. And it was a cemetery, like a mortuary card, and it had and he had his name. I still have it, and it has his name and his phone number, and he would just stamp it, and on the back of it, it would be like so and so funeral home, and he gave that to me. I never took him up on it, but I know a lot of people who did. He's all, you'd go over to his house and you play pool and bust out some weed, and everybody was just chilling, talking about music.
If I were you, I would definitely take him up on it. It's probably the same number. Take him up on it, because there's a few people that have offered that to me, and I never did it, or when I was ready to do it, they passed away.
Oh, so, yeah. Don't say that, because it seems like I'm losing a lot of heroes. But yes, you have to. But you know what? Sometimes I think it is. It's like you don't want to get disappointed by some of the people you admire. That's part of it for me. Like I have some
life too.
Yeah, and they want to, but I'm like, I just get a little bit kind of anxiety with it. Not saying I wouldn't trust the guy. I don't know what would happen over there, but it's just like, you're like, I just kind of have a little bit too much reverence for when it comes to these kind of creative circles. Then some people I just can't. I don't want to get into their space, and I don't want to find out anything. Like maybe I just don't want to know. I don't want to be disappointed by my idols, you know. And you get those opportunities to interview them, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to interview that person. I kind of want to feel, I guess, have that little fantasy in my head of what it was like during their, their heyday, and just kind of leave it there. If they're still alive and they're still performing, that's good enough for me. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to be the person who had the last interview with them and then feel like shit.
But why would you feel? Why would you feel like
I don't
shit
know. I don't know. It's just, it's just a weird thing. It's just a weird thing. So I'm always kind of like, I'm just kind of sending good vibes.
My job now has become to help you make sure that you go hang out with those people and do those interviews, because think about it. Just, I know we keep on alluding to the Great East L.A. project, but that's also the reason why, like, at a certain point in that project, I was a little frantic of just trying to get everybody, and I offended a lot of people from like our generation of like the younger generation of artists, because they're like, why did you do these people, and you worked on this for 5 years and you never reached out to me. And I'm like, dude, like, I got to get to these people before anything happens to them, and then later, closer to the exhibition, there's some people that came in a month before the opening, 2 months before the opening, and I had to have a really like long therapeutic conversation with them about like, hey, look, I wasn't trying to like ghost you or anything. There's no beef. We don't have any, like, and it's just those things. But yeah, dude, like, how can I put it? There has been, okay, one of my biggest heroes is the Mexican photographer Graciela Iturbide, and we have a mutual friend by the name of Margaret Garcia, who's a really well-known Chicana painter and muralist. She's like, I've always known Graciela's work, and Graciela was also, her mentor was Manuel Alvarez Bravo, another amazing, legendary Mexican photographer. And for the museum where I'm showing, every year I used to do the official portraits for the gala. So people would come to me, and Margaret was there one day, and she's like, you have to meet my friend Graciela. I'm like, okay, cool. And she kept on saying Graciela, Graciela, Graciela. And I'm like, dude, by the end of the night, I was like, hey, so who's this friend Graciela that you want me to meet? She's like, oh yeah, let me go grab her. She grabs her, we start talking. She's like, oh yeah, I'm a photographer. I'm like, okay, cool. Didn't know, like, I know her work. I didn't know who the heck she was at all. And we're talking, and I'm like, cool, where can I see your stuff? She's like, yeah, you could see online, just put up my name. I was like, okay, cool. And she's like, where can I see yours? And I said, well, I have some on my phone. And I show her some stuff, and one of the photographs that I just happened to take around that time was the last trip I did to Mexico. And so she's like, oh my God. She's like, how old are you? And I think at the time I was like, I'm 33. And she's like, wow, this looks like it was shot in the 20s or 30s in Mexico. I was like, oh my God, you get it. And I tell her, yeah, my inspiration is Irving Penn, the American photographer Irving Penn, the stuff that he did when he traveled through North Africa. And I said, Emmanuel Alvarez Bravo. And she's like, I knew what? She's like, I knew Manuel. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So we started talking about that a little bit. And the night, blah, blah, blah. Wake up the next morning, and it's like something said, get out of bed. And I walked to my bookshelf, grab the first book. Like, why do I have this book in my hand? And I'm still half asleep. And I go to open it, and it flips all the way to the back, and it's a photo of Graciela, and it's her book. And I'm like, oh my God! And I call Margaret. Oh my God! Is Graciela still here? And she's like, yeah, but she's leaving tonight. I was like, well, can set up a meeting, something. She's like, oh no, I don't think I can do it. And I'm like, so fast forward. Graciela comes back to LA. We meet again, and she offers, hey, if you're gonna be in Mexico City, give me a call. Cool. I end up going with Los Lobos to Mexico City because they're playing Viva Latino, and I was like, you know what? Let me set this up. I ended up going to her house. It was the best time of my life, dude. Hanging out with her, talking photography, everything. And she's very film photography purist. And I have one of my cameras is a Fuji X Pro 3, which is digital, but it looks like a Leica. And she's like, oh, let me see your camera. And she was looking through it, and she was about to press the button, which she told me, she's like, I've never pulled a trigger or pressed the button of any digital camera before. And I said, oh, and I see her put her finger on it, and then she realizes what she's about to do. and she pulls it off. I'm like, damn, I could have been the one that brought her to the dark side. But my point to this is dude, you have to,
don't wait.
knock on wood.
Don't wait.
Knock on wood. She hasn't passed away, and she's 83 years or 84 years old, and she's still touring like a mad person. So like, and it's funny because that trip, she tells me, yeah, I think I'm gonna start slowing down. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're 80 something. But she's been working her ass off for years, And who are all her friends? Cartier-Bresson, all these huge names that she's name dropping, But she's not dropping them like to brag. She's dropping them because it's just her stories. But so sorry, I took you on a journey.
No, that's great. That's great. I love it.
But
Because that's very important. That's a very important part of your story. And people who are listening to this, before they go to check out the exhibition, which I'm going to be reminding everybody, you want to go to La Plaza de Culturas y Artes in Los Angeles to check out a great day in East L.A. Celebrando the Eastside Sounds. When they go over there, they're going to know some more about you and how you came to be, which kind of brings us a little bit more to this, because when we're talking about your entrance into music after high school, you're doing photography, you're starting to kind of rub elbows with a lot more musicians in LA. I mean, of course, Southern California is just fertile ground with you're going to be crossing paths with all kinds of people, and you might be in one room with 10 legends or 10 of the people that you really admire, and you don't even know because you're all there just to kind of enjoy the music.
I have to stop you there because you're going in a direction that's the way that should happen, but the way that I got into meeting these people was through the anti-war movement of like right after 9/11, and those I became a student organizer, and I became student organizer, and so through becoming a student organizer, not that there's a backstage at protest, but like the stage has a little barricade around it, and I'd get myself in there somehow, and I'd be meeting my first protest I ever go to, and who's the first person I photographed? Well, the top 4 people that day were Serge Tankian of System of a Down, Lash from Guns N' Roses on stage, Jackson Brown, and the poet musician Saul Williams. And those were the people at the first protest I ever go to.
God, we talk about when you just kind of put some stuff in mind, because there was, there was a time when a lot of celebrities, a lot of musicians, some of the musicians that you had, of course, Jackson Brown is known for that, going back to No Nukes. But everybody would be involved. You would see them out protest. Everybody was loaning their voice, and of course now it's kind of a different story. Everybody's either kind of afraid, or they're just kind of either they've aged out of it, they just don't want to get involved, or they're just afraid. They're just like, I'm already losing money in the job that I've, my career, and this is already going to kind of put me under, so they don't want to do it. But I mean, you're all over the place at this point in your life. And how old are you during that time? What is your age range?
So the anti-war movement kicked off also I believe either summer of, no, it was October 3rd. I for sure know it was October 3rd. Of 2000, it's either 2002, 2002 or 2003 is when the anti-war movement started. So.
Wow. Okay. All right. So at this time, where you're at, your musical tastes, the things that you're involved in, the people that you're around, as I want to kind of bring it more into the exhibition and the connections here. Did you, through that whole time, when we're talking about music, we're just going to focus on music and where you are and the things that you're into and the things that you're gravitating towards to and the things you maybe might have reverence for. Did you always feel a direct connection and have like a reverence for the older pioneering groups of East L.A. back then?
Yes. Yeah. Again, it's. I grew up.
I mean, was it just an awareness, like, oh yeah, I know about the Midnights, of course, because I'm around all that
this
stuff.
This will describe it. Is that I'm ashamed of this, but I'm cutting it off at the beginning of the year. Is that my Spotify? I gave you your listening age, and my listening age is 77. So that tells me that I'm very much the old soul of what I listen to and everything. So, but at that time, again, so through Rage Against the Machine, I go into the next best band out of Los Angeles is Ozone Motley. But I gotta go way back the one thing that we haven't touched on is that I'm directing the official Los Lobos documentary film. But through the process of directing the film, I find a tape from when I was 3 years old, and so I just find this tape sitting at my garage about 2 or 3 years ago, and I just happened to, for a birthday, I was given the new Vitrolas that are like a 5-in-1 that has a cassette player, CD player, and an LP player. So I put on this tape, and it's me at 2 or 3 years old singing to Los Lobos and La Bamba. And I'm like, so that tells you what my journey is. I'm listening to the Beatles as a very young kid as well, and all these bands from, like I said, all over the world, that it's my parents' music. So it's all from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so fast forward, I get into Rage Against the Machine, and then I start going backwards and forwards at the same time with music. So Bob Dylan's coming into my life because of the politics. I get Neil Young as well, but then I'm getting Ozomatli. I'm getting hip hop artists like Dead Prez, Black Alicious, Saul Williams, all these people that I'm starting to listen to. And at the same time, as photography is coming into my life as well, it's like, oh, I graduate high school. Before I graduated high school, I was already shooting bands like Pennywise because their album, something free. I can't remember what it is, but that and an Anti-Flag, and I'm becoming friends with these people little by little. And so getting into like Anti-Flag and Pennywise, it's getting me to other bands, and I'm going and bouncing, and then I become friends with Ozomatli. And Ozomatli is like, thank God for Uli Vea Ozomatli, the saxophone player, hands me Fugazi, hands me Bad Brains,
Slayer. He's a Slayer guy.
Yeah, and hands me the Fugees at the same time, and then all this like hip hop stuff, and Khalid Kweli, Mos Def, all these things. I'm getting, I'm like, it's being handed to me, and then I'm going to college, and I'm meeting people like, hey, do you know this? And then I find Manu Chao.
Yeah,
and it's just like boom, even more. I was like, wow, okay. And then I'm in a band. Remember this? I'm in a band at the same time, so I'm getting into all this other stuff. And
yeah, when you're talking about an artist like Manu Chao, because if you're back in the 80s like I was, we knew him from Mano Negra, and I loved that band, and they tried to break him in the States. Of course, didn't really happen, but I remember when they were really pushing Mano Negra, you were hearing like King Kong 5, and that was the only video you saw on MTV, and it would be like 120 minutes or something like that, super late at night. But those Manu Chao solo albums really had a huge impact on kind of that Latin alternative scene that was going on. And right, that's one of those albums that he's one of those artists that really, I remember back in those days when a lot of the, like, obviously the music industry was starting to pay attention to a lot of those bands, from of course Cadillac's Matador comes out, and then it's just like, okay, so what's next? Café Tacuba is finally getting attention. Manu Chao and Gran Silencio and all those and all the other bands. I mean, there was so much. The industry was giving them a big boost of support, but it didn't really break out as much as I think that they had anticipated. But I remember that time and it started to kind of reverberate through the Chicano scenes, because this is the one thing that I noticed. Like I said, when I was down there interning, and I worked out at Tomas Cookman's office at a Nacional. We did a Latin alternative music conference, and I met a lot of people like Josh Kuhn and everything like that. Yeah. And I would see them all the time. But one thing I noticed was that the Chicano alternative scene and the rock en español scene with a lot of those Euro-Tino bands, aren't bands from Argentina, and then you've got Los Amigos Invisibles and everybody who's at the top of their game. They're getting the most love right now. Those scenes weren't really embracing the Chicano alternative scene. There was kind of like a line in the sand, Did you notice that? Because this was like in 2003 when I was seeing like bands like East L.A. Sabor Factory and all those bands, and those are like the local bands. I felt like they were like my band. They're a band from East L.A. We're a band from Bakersfield. We're kind of doing this kind of like Latin alternative, ska mishmash and cumbias are being incorporated in there. But like those bands from Mexico and from Argentina, they weren't really hip on this Chicano thing.
Well, it depends who you talk to, because if you talk to someone like Enrique Bumburi of Héroes del Silencio, he's a huge Midnighters fan, a huge Los Lobos fan, and
Oh well, that no,
just
not that's different. That's different. Of
okay.
course, Los Lobos were respected. I mean, around the world. I
No,
think.
but I
Yeah,
know I know where you're trying to go. So from just like you from experience and being part of it, and again, you're working with Tomas Cookman, so obviously you're part of Nacional, and you can tell me if I'm wrong with this, is that it seems like that the machine was bigger and pushing the bands from Latin America and Europe a lot more, and they stopped looking at Los Angeles, because I honestly think there's a bias, obviously, from when you have a Latino executive who maybe didn't grow up in Los Angeles. They're not going to look towards the Chicano community because they're not part of it, you know. And I think they're looking towards either Latin America or the bands that were being pumped into Latin America, which spoke in Spanish from Europe. And I think that's why maybe they weren't looking at the East LA Suburb Factory or the Upgrounds or all these other
yeah. I
artists.
remember Upground. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're all all the homies, you know. But is that yeah, I kind of feel like that was the case, and until, and again, you might know better than I do, but I don't think that really changed until maybe 2012, 11, right? Where they started looking towards Los Angeles and some of the bands.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. But I would say when you were talking about like oh, what is the band? There's a lot of. I mean, God, there's always another scene that kind of pops up, and it kind of reminds me like when like a band like The Commons, and then
Oh
they
yeah,
became Tropa Mágica, and then like
yeah.
Chicano Batman and all that stuff. When all those groups. Oh, when you were talking about the UFW Eagle, the cease and desist. If you're
Oh,
not, yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
had the first demo from Chicano Batman. I bought it outside. They weren't playing
yeah.
outside the gates of the last Sunset Junction, and I bought it
Oh,
from them because I love the name. I
yeah,
was like, I want to go see this band that's playing over there, right outside the gates of Sunset Junction. I went over there and I bought and they were like, oh man, we just finished, but they still had their tuxedos on, and it was hot. They
yeah,
still had those blue tuxedos. I
yeah,
was like, and then they just went on to blow up, and now they're no longer
yeah.
together. But I just remember, but yeah, but that I remember that time. So yeah,
But I got to
maybe
see.
the there was a little bit more, everybody started kind of a little bit more focused back into the Chicano scene, but it definitely
Yeah,
wasn't. I mean, wow, that was a long time ago. There's that distance. There's like
yeah,
9, 10
because
years. And Ozo,
yeah,
of course, Ozo was the one that broke out, and that was such an inspiring story because it was just like, hey, that could be us. Like they made it seem
yeah,
like, but then it was just like, I think according to the industry, there's only room for one Ozo Motley, and they got such a, I mean that tour, and I've had this conversation with them many times. I was like, dude, what was it like to get signed and just go straight on the one of the biggest tours, the biggest tour of Carlos Santana's life, and to go around the world,
yeah.
that's
And but you have to think about it, because that's true. Because if you think about it, even now it's different, but in the sense where you have Quetzal, the band Quetzal from East LA, I think came a few years earlier.
yeah, yeah.
Because
They were the ones. It was like Quetzal. I told Quetzal about this. Like back in those days, like when I told you when we'd go over there, it was like Quetzal was the one of the groups that everybody talked about. It was like, man, they're really doing this really kind of folklorical stuff and incorporating it in. Whereas everybody was doing ska and starting to incorporate cumbias into their sound.
yeah,
Quetzal was really bringing it back to basics, and
yeah,
everybody was
yeah,
just like, "Man, these guys are incredible," and it was just just huge buzz around them. But Ozo kind of Ozo got that deal, man.
yeah. But I think also why they got the deal, and again, I haven't really had that conversation with anyone, but I can just, from observations and knowing a little bit how the
Mm-hmm.
industry is, you have Ozo Motley being a little bit more uh, in, inclusive in the sound, and what I mean by that is culturally or worldly inclusive, where
More
it's
accessible by more of a mainstream artist. I mean, because
yeah, but I mean, but what I mean by that is also Ozo Motley sounds like every neighborhood in Los Angeles. You know what I mean? Mostly the first album. Sounds like all the music that you would hear in every neighborhood in Los Angeles. And Quetzal beautifully, and again, I'm a fan, and they know that I'm a fan. That they take you to Southern Mexico and East L.A. at the same time. So it's just that journey. But with Ozo, they're like, okay, cool. We're not only gonna get Chicano community or the Mexican community, we're gonna get all the Latino community, but then we're gonna take you to Africa as well and put some African rhythms in there. And then we're gonna take you to the Middle East and we're gonna put Middle Eastern rhythms in there. And I think that's one of the things that probably record executives what made it more appealing. And then yeah, to go with Santana, that's huge. Which is funny. Like if you go to Will Dog Studio, like when people do big tours like that, they usually get like this big framed, beautiful like tour poster and or I forgot what it is, but
like a commemorative thing that they were on the tour.
Yeah, and it's great. It's beautiful. It's a big beautiful thing. And I'm like, dude, you have it in your bathroom, dude. It's like
and he'll say, it's just to keep me humble, bro.
yeah, that's what he says. So just keep me humble, sure. Or like sometimes Louis from Los Lobos. Yeah, this is just a doorstop with his Grammy, and I'm like, dude, come on. Yeah, that is definitely not a doorstop.
No, don't. It's just like, oh, are you kidding? I mean, God, yeah. But it was great to see those bands on the rise. Of course, Los Lobos, to see them in the '80s to bust out. I mean, there's so many stories that I have, personal stories with like how much their music has meant to me. But like I said, man, we can go all different kinds of ways. But
break time. We'll be back. It's the Bakotunes podcast with Matt Munoz.
Gentlemen, David Hidalgo, would you please introduce me to the gentleman furthest over there?
Okay, that's Conrad Lozano.
Conrad, welcome. Nice to have you with us. And next, please.
Caesar Rosas.
Caesar, we met earlier. And I'll get down here out of the way, the man right behind us.
That's Louis Perez.
Louis, welcome. Nice to, and lastly over here.
Steve Berlin.
How do you characterize your music?
It's basically American music. It's a mixture of a lot of different styles. And there's not one term that you could put on it.
So you haven't labeled your own music. Who were the influences? Who'd you listen to when you were a little kid?
We were just basically listening to everything that was coming over the radio. But we listened to like country music and Louisiana style music and Merle Haggard, just a bunch of things.
But like I said, man, we can go all different kinds of ways, but I really want to start talking about this exhibition because it's very important. So everybody out there listening, if you like what you're hearing, you should just take another step and you need to go to La Plaza de Culturas y Artes. You can go to lapca.org to get more information about it. It's right there in downtown LA. So wherever you're listening to this, whatever part of the planet, whatever city, whatever state, you have till August 23rd, 2026 to go see it. So we're going to talk about that right now because I want to get you guys all pumped up. So we're talking about your personal history with East L.A., Los Angeles music, your personal journey, photography, music, art, having these amazing opportunities, being at the right place at the right time. Now, eventually you're going to get to a point, I know, we all get to that point where you kind of face a fork in the road. It's like, all right, I'm going to keep on going this route. I'm going to keep on creating and fulfilling what my heart desires. But I know that there's also going to be those dream projects that you want to do. And when I see this and I hear and I'm talking to, I'm like, I want to know like when did the seed get planted in your head that at this point in your life, I mean, because you're still a relatively young dude and you've been around all this, but I mean, this is an exhibition that has never been put together before. This is kind of like you're the first one, and I mean you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that maybe there might be some other smaller exhibitions at some maybe some of the Chicano bands that maybe at this a particular city college or a high school, they've kind of loaned their stuff and put it on, in display at their high school where they all were at, maybe the guys from Ozo and, Garfield High, Los Lobos, et cetera, on down the line. But we're talking about, you want to put something that is going to, people walk into this exhibition, they're going to walk out touched, and it's going to have a really huge impact on their lives. So let's jump right into this. How did this all come about?
Before the exhibition, this project came to me in a dream, literally in a dream. And I woke up in that dream. I saw a photograph by which is called A Great Day in Harlem, which is it's a photograph by world famous photographer Art Kane, who shot that in 1958 of the 56 of the greatest jazz musicians to ever live. And you have Dizzy Gillespie, Thelonious Monk, Count Basie, Sonny Rollins, and many others that I can't remember right now.
The Thelonious, okay, so the Thelonious Monk showing up with the white jacket is one of the best stories. I love how he just like, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna show out.
That's right. But do you know how he got everybody together?
No, how did that happen? Because the documentary, by the way, everybody listening, the documentary that Piero was talking about, Great Day in Harlem, it's a must see for every music lover, every historian. You got to see this because it will bring tears to your eyes. It's such a beautiful thing. But please go on.
So Art knew that a lot of these musicians would be playing late at night, and they wouldn't stop playing until very, very early in the morning. So what he did is he it's his first gig for Esquire magazine, and so what he did is he got some of the people some of his friends to help him basically source the artists. So as they were starting to come out at like 6 o'clock in the morning from these bars, they would be someone out there, hey, come, we have to do this photo shoot for Esquire. You need to be there. So they would be bringing them little by little, running around town to all the like famous jazz clubs. And that's how you got all those people in there. And the beautiful part of that photograph is that there's a bunch of kids from the neighborhood all sitting on the sidewalk. And there's like 2 or 3 of them that became really famous, and jazz musicians as well from that are in that photograph. So I see that photograph in my dream. I wake up, and for 2 weeks straight, everywhere I would go, everyone thinks I'm embellishing when I say this. I shit you not. Everywhere I would go is that I would see this photograph, and it'd be in a liquor store, it'd be in online, and it wasn't the anniversary of it or anything, but it would be everywhere. On the last day of the second week, I go to Downtown Rehearsal Studios, which is a big rehearsal space lockout. I was there to photograph a band, and I run into a different musician from another band, and we start talking. And out of nowhere, we're catching up, and out of nowhere, he just says, hey, man, do you know that photograph? And I cut him off, and I said, yep, it's called A Great Day in Harlem. He's like, how'd you know I was going to say that? I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. I don't know. Just, yes, it's called A Great Day in Harlem. And he's like, how do you know? But he's a little high maybe. So like, he was still tripping out. And I said, don't worry, just don't talk to anybody about it. I'm going to figure it out. Let me figure it, like, I'll do it. I don't know. And I was already kind of like, all right, I hear you, universe. I got the download. It's cool. And, I do my photo shoot, come back home, do first thing I already knew some of the musicians or the music of East L.A. And so I do my research online, and the first website to pop up is Mark Guerrero, who happens to be the son of Lalo Guerrero, the father of Chicano music. So I look at his website, and it's like an encyclopedia to the musicians of East LA. I'm like, oh my God. I go click on contact, and there's a phone number. I'm like, okay. I work with a lot of musicians and a lot of older musicians, and as we all may know, the older musicians get grumpier. And so
man, yes, they do.
And so and that goes for every artist, no matter what discipline of the arts. And I was like, oh, okay. So I call him, and the whole time I'm like, please don't be an asshole. Please don't be an asshole. As it's ringing, and I'm like, and he answers, and coolest guy ever. He's like, I tell him what I want to do. I introduce myself, tell him what I want to do. And he's like, oh my God, this is amazing. He's like, I'll help you with anything that you need. I'll be a part of it. I'm like, great, cool. The son of, again, Lalo Guerrero is one of my musical heroes too. I remember his music being played in the house. I remember seeing him on Culture Clash in the 90s. And then a week later, a girlfriend that I had at the time was playing within a band, and I find out that they're opening up for Los Lobos up north in a beautiful festival that's no longer around called the Kate Wolf Music Festival in Willits, California. So first thing I tell her is, I don't care what it takes. You're gonna get me a pass, and I'm gonna find my way to get up there. Do we have to mention that band? Because to me, they're like Voldemort every time I talk to them. But screw it. I'll just say it.
Sure. Let's keep it real.
Okay. So my ex or my girlfriend at the time is in a band called Las Cafeteras, and they're opening up for Los Lobos up north. And for my history before we started dating, I was also the band photographer, and so all the photographs you saw from 2011 to 2015 or 16. That was all my work with them.
Yeah,
So,
full disclosure, I shared the flyer with Piero that us and Las Cafeteras did. Las Cafeteras' first show in Bakersfield was opening for Mento Brew at Fish Lips downtown. Okay, there you go. Side note. Okay, continue on. And you noticed the other photos were yours.
Yeah, so I want to say, what year was that again?
2011. Was it 2011? 2012?
I think it was that. So yeah, because I was gonna say maybe that was the show that we were supposed to go, but it wasn't. Is that I think it was 2013 or 14 when that happened. So no, it had to be 14 because I started the project in 2014. Yeah. So she helps me. I think the band is either Bakersfield or Fresno that they're playing this show, and she's like, look, I got them. I convinced the venue to let you have a photo show there and a photography exhibition, and you're gonna just show all your work that you have for the band. I said, okay, great. And she's like, if you sell some stuff, that'll help you get to the next place, next venue, and we can sell some more and go from there. The night before we have to leave, I get a phone call saying, hey, can you do a photo shoot for like this fashion brand thing that's like a startup fashion brand, and so I had to call my girlfriend and I said, hey, I can't go. I can't do this first part of the drive with you, but I'll meet you in Fresno. And super pissed, blah, blah, blah. But I do the photo shoot. And why the hell did I do that photo shoot? Because they're like, oh, yeah, we only have $200. We'll pay you later. And when they were supposed to pay me a lot more. And so I was like, okay, $200 were supposed to get me through, or the money I was supposed to get was supposed to get me through the majority of the trip. With $200, that's only really going to get me so far. So I go there, bummed out. I have all my prints with me as I'm driving up there, set everything up. No one looked at anything. And fast forward towards the end of the night, as I grab the first photograph to pull down, some older gentleman just comes up to me and says, hey man, I love your work. These are all amazing. I want to buy them all. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, dude, I just want to buy it. I'm like, no, dude, you're drunk. And he's like, no, I want to buy it. And this, conversation back and forth of, no, dude, no, yeah, I want to. No, dude. I'm like, come on. And he's like, look, and he pulls out a huge just roll of cash and just says, here, take it. This is it. I'm gonna buy everything. I want them all. So I was like, okay, dude, fine. And he's like, put it in my car. Put everything in his car, and I count it later, and it was like $1,600. I was like, oh my god, all right, cool, paid for the whole trip. We get to that show. Everybody plays their sets. At the end of the night, I walk into the band's dressing room there, and I walk up to Cesar Rosas first. And for those that don't know Los Lobos, he's the guy with the sunglasses. He usually wears the sunglasses. So go up to him, I tell him what I want to do, and he's like, all right, cool, you should talk to Louis. And I was like, kind of totally brushed me out, but yeah, here, let me pass you along to him. And so I tell Louis who I am, tell him the same thing, like what I want to do, and he's like, oh, and you know what, when I interviewed him for the project, he remembered it. He remembered exactly what he said, because he's like, oh man, I had to slug you. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I had to slug you because this is such a great idea. I don't know why I didn't think of this. He's like, we'll help you with everything that you need. I was like, oh my God. Well, like in a matter of 2 weeks, I have the son of my musical hero who says yes. And I have my musical heroes since I was 3 years old saying yes to this. I just went back home excited and started doing my research even more. Through Mark, my first interview was Rudy Salas of Tierra. And the rest is, yeah, who was it that day? It was Tierra, Mark Torres of KPFK and Quinto Sol were my first three.
Quinto Sol.
Yeah.
Remember Quinto Sol. So you're putting this seed is planted in your head. You're like, okay, I'm going to start this now. And what year was this again? Just to kind of get the timeline straight.
This had to be towards the end of very close to the end of 2014.
So 2014, you're like, well, I'm going to start this now, and wherever it goes, and eventually I'm going to put it into a museum. That was your goal, or you're just kind of like, I'm just going to start collecting stuff.
Okay, so again, before the artifacts, before all those, again, remember, this thing came to me in a dream, and I'm just blindly being pulled, as I say, in the direction that wherever the universe wants to take me, and I'm just going with the flow of it. I am completely, just honestly, blindly doing things, and what ended up happening is the former CEO of La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, John Echevestes, I'm stuttering. Here we are, many years later, and now he's one of the executive producers on the Los Lobos film with me. And we were talking. I said, "How did we meet?" And we could never figure out how it happened. But he's championed the project almost since day one, and about 90% of all the interviews and photographs taken for the project were done at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. So through Mark ends up calling everybody, and he gets me everybody from the 50s all the way to the early 80s, and I get the mid 80s to today.
So Mark at this point, like, so he stayed cool with all those cats, because you were talking about like the drama and the kind of like the old beefs and stuff like that we all have. And so like everybody out there listening, if you're aware of like the kind of the Latin legends, as they say, you know, Tierra Malo, El Chicano, and those bands, all the related bands, Sapo, that whole Bay Area scene that was going on, and the East L.A. scene, the Midnighters, everything that was going on, you'll know that there was a kind of like drama behind the scenes, people, you know, bad business deals, people that didn't get paid, etc. on down the line. And for Mark to be able to call these people, I mean, wow, man, he must have just had a really good rep, or unless they just, hey, this is Lalo's son. What do you think it was?
It's all of the above, because he you know, he's one of the pioneering bands for everybody too. So before the Midnighters, there was Mark and the Escorts, you know. And I knew this was going to happen. Now the dates, I'm going to get them wrong. Who came first?
It's okay, but let me add this in there, because you are absolutely right that the more that I've spent time doing some research on Mark, which I listened to it on your own podcast, which we can remind everybody to listen to, because there's a lot of great interviews, and there's one with Mark, which is one of your early ones, and I think you guys this is when you were starting to just kind of work together, but you kind of give your backstory with Mark. Is that Mark's own backstory is an amazing story all its own, and he's definitely one of those hidden figures from this whole story. You of course you know his dad, and then his brother is another story, but which never really gets brought up. Which, you know, he mentions his brother, but like the two brothers, I mean, they both had their own careers, and then to say that your father's Lalo Guerrero, I'm sure that Mark had, you know, some things that he had to deal with, because he's always getting pulled into, like, in the shadow of his father. And but Mark's own story in that is really, really amazing. So I'm glad that you guys connected. But yes, please continue on your relationship with Mark.
And just to touch on Dan, which is Mark's brother. Dan is another pioneer of Latino television and stage. And so the work that he's done, like he was a producer on the Maria Conchita Alonso show. He puts on shows at I think it was the Kennedy Center and a bunch of other places as well. So like that's a family that are legends all within the three of them. And yeah, so like Mark has been the guy who, not only is he part of history, but I always forget how I say this. Not only is
he's an important figure in that whole chapter, in that the pioneering, when you talk about the pioneering names in Chicanos in popular music, Mark Guerrero's name should be mentioned alongside, you know, Carlos Santana, of course, a lot of the other bands from,
Oh, yeah.
the Midnighters. I mean,
Well,
he's one of those figures. Escovedo. I mean, Mark Guerrero should be mentioned. But, and if you were to talk to those other people who might be a little bit more well-known on a wider scale, you say, hey, do you know Mark? Oh yeah, of course I know Mark. Okay.
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah.
So, what I was going to say is that not only is he the historian in a project like this, and he's documenting everybody, but he lived it. He was also a musician within the scene. So that's why it's like, okay, I'm just this kid off the street, but then I got this guy who's living all of it, and he's been around since the early '60s. As a musician and then his dad, and he's got the clout. He not only has the clout and street credit because of his dad, but then his own music is great as well because Mark signed to Capitol Records, to A&M, and to Crescendo Records, all these big labels, and he's doing all this work and basically opening doors for everybody and within the scene through the work that he's doing. But this is also a guy who is highly underrated in many ways, and he can tell you the story of how the labels just didn't know what to do with him. As he would say, he's like, wait, you're Mexican or Chicano and you want to play country rock. It's like at that time he was one of the first, and then Linda Ronstadt came around and then she did it, and then okay, but then Linda Ronstadt also didn't really have a Chicana or Latino name. So
yeah, a lot of people didn't know. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, I grew up listening to Linda Ronstadt. We didn't know. I didn't know she was Latina. It wasn't until the Canciones de Mi Padre albums came out where she really came out, and they were like, oh, But and then we're talking about a pre-internet age, so you're not going to be seeing all that. She was doing a lot of stuff back then where she was referencing her Latin roots, but there was no way to find out about it because you know how it is.
Yeah.
Too afraid to kind of put that out about her.
Yeah, and that goes even back to the early years where you had people like Art Brambilla and another guy from East L.A. I'll think of the name, but he so between Art Brambilla and that other guy, they were trying to bring these artists up and trying to get them into the mainstream. And the mainstream still didn't know what to do with them, and they're like, well, okay, they kind of sound white, so let's put them on, or we can try to figure, like Chan Romero, the same thing where he was supposed to be the replacement, or not was kind of going to end up as the replacement for Richie Valens, and he was even living at Richie Valens' home, and he's the guy who created the song "Hippie Hippie Shake," that to the point where the Beatles were even covering his songs before they even got big, and then to this day Paul McCartney still covers Chan Romero's "Hippie Hippie Shake." So you have all these people trying to push it up, but again, it's the industry that's just trying to make it white, or you have to be African American and you have to sound a certain way, or we're going to take black people's music and then we're gonna have a white guy sing it. And that's really what the industry has been, even up until today. There's still remnants of that. There's a reason why Taylor Swift is really big. We can argue that another day. but yeah. So with Mark, I just having him brought clout to the project and didn't have any drama with it through any of it. So for 10 years, Chicanos, like we talked about, there's what I like to say Chicano beef is that because in kindergarten, I told you that your mama's so fat, whatever, and you're gonna hate me the day we die. That's Chicano beef. But none of that happened. Everyone understood what it was about, and everybody came and made this project possible. So for 10 years, interviewing 10 people almost every weekend, and one right after another, we'd get to the museum at 9 a.m. and I wouldn't leave until 2 or 3 a.m.
So how did you layer this? It's more of a visual thing. There's obvious audio components to the exhibition, but how did you decide and prioritize what was going to be on there and structure it out?
So it wasn't just audio interviews. We actually did everything on video. And so the way I knew, being the photographer, that I'm like, okay, if this is going to be a photography project and with the oral history part of it behind it, that's all done on video. I had to make sure that the first thing that I did before I piss you off with some of the questions, if I do piss you off, need that photograph first. So once you send the release form and then I get your photo, I'm all like, good, I gotcha. It's like the Pokemon. I got to collect them all. And yeah, and luckily I didn't piss anybody off with any of the questions, but I got them to open up and talk about their story. So fast forward to the exhibition. The exhibition, I never thought it would be an exhibition. I was asked to do a small version of it in 2017 with Marta Gonzalez of Quetzal. She's a professor as well at that time, or she was a professor at that time at Scripps College, and we did a smaller version of it where there was 80 artifacts and maybe 25 images that were being shown. And she even told me, she's like, I just kind of want 10 artifacts. And then she made the mistake of being like, you know what, just do whatever you want. You sure about that? Yeah, sure. You have carte blanche, do whatever you want. Cool. And I ended up getting 80 artifacts. And it's everything from Lonnie Jordan of War's keyboard, Juan Alderete from the Mars Volta's Mexican flag and bass in the exhibition. And then we have Lalo's last Zoot suit jacket that he ever wore before he passed away, and a bunch of other stuff. John Avila Boingo Boingo's bass and like proclamation to Los Angeles. So we have all these things, and then fast forward again, right before the pandemic, John Echevestis reaches out to me and says, "Hey, we want to do an exhibition for your project." So that all happens, and then when I got the call again after the pandemic, "Hey, let's really do this." It was right around he was retired. He was about to retire, and he said, "Okay, my final wishes before I retire is that these are the 4 or 5, or here's a list of exhibitions that need to happen," and that he passed it along to Leticia Wright Buckley, who is the new CEO, and the rest is history. So to answer your question of how we chose things and what made it, what didn't make it in, the reason the videos aren't in the exhibition is because of timing and the amount of help we didn't get. I'll keep it there. There's a lot of work. It's 170 portraits with 170 video interviews that come along with it, but it's 450 musicians. So everybody's talking in these interviews. And I decided, okay, I don't have a lot of help. If I hand this thing over to you guys, only I kind of understand how I organized it all. And I just thought it would be easier. Let's just make this a photo exhibition with a ton of artifacts. So the moment we got the green light to move forward with it, that I was able to bring in Mark, who was a co-curator with me, and then I needed the academic side of stuff, so we brought in Professor Jorge Leal, thanks to someone else who's one of the executive producers on the Los Lobos film with me, Flavio Morales, who's also one of the people in the exhibition with the Illegal Interns, the TV show.
Yeah, that was everybody listening. You might remember LA TV. I don't know if LA TV is still on. It was like I
think it is.
It's still on. Yeah. So they used to have like, wow, it was early Latino alternative programming in Los Angeles. You can watch the shows. They had several shows. They had Mex to the Max, the LA TV Live. One of the hosts, Melissa Gonzalo, who was on there when my band appeared on there with Giovanni, who I run into to this day. He was in that band Viva Malpache back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Melissa Gonzalo lived in Bakersfield for a while, and she was an anchor for one of the Telemundo affiliates here for many years. She owned a house, and I would always ask her about to tell me stories about those LA TV years, because it was like, you had a live studio audience, and like the youth of Los Angeles got to see some of the biggest names of that time. You got to see, I think Cafe Tacuba, I know Ozomatli would play, but some of the big names that, if you didn't see them in concert, chances are they're going to stop at LA TV. So that was a great, and I know Flavio was on there with the Illegal Intern show, like you said.
Yes. And so what people need to understand is with the Legal Interns and LA TV, that was MTV Tres before MTV Tres.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was,
that's where the youth of Los Angeles got to meet all these people. And thanks to Flavio, they were the first to break bands like Café Tacuba for the youth to find out who they were, and many other bands as well. So like I was saying, just fast forward, we're trying to find all these artifacts. So as soon as I got the green light, I just did the exact same thing that Mark and I did for the smaller exhibition. I said, all right, start making phone calls and let's see what we can get. And we already knew certain things that we wanted and who had them. So we made sure to call them first. And little by little, again, the museum I think only wanted 100 artifacts, and we gave them 850 plus. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's past 850. And the closer we got to the opening, the cooler stuff would come in. One, for example, that didn't make it, but we got it the day before the opening, was the Black Eyed Peas outfits and the tour outfits that they had when they would go on the world tours. Those came in, and unfortunately, those aren't being displayed. And but one thing that we had was the guitars of the Black Eyed Peas. His guitar was in the exhibition. Now it's being rotated out. But yeah, we would get, let's see, we have Chan Romero's guitar that he wrote Hip 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 Shake on. We have Willie G's suit from when he was in the Midnighters.
It's one of my favorite pieces. Everybody out there, like I said, I've been to the exhibition, so I kind of already have a little bit, and I don't want to do spoiler alert or anything like that, but like he said, that little Willie G suit from the Midnighters is one of the coolest things that I saw in there, and that's just the beginning.
So think about it this way for everybody: is if you love the music of East L.A. from the 50s to today, we have that. And I'll give you a spoiler alert. We have so someone like Bretton Wood came to get his photograph taken. I interviewed him, and people were like, "Well, he's not from East LA. Why is he in here?" I'm like, "Dude, that guy is more East LA than anybody from East LA." And he even said it forever. He's like, "I'm a Chicano." He's like, "If it wasn't for the Chicano community, I'd be dead in a ditch somewhere." Because they kept him afloat. They kept him afloat with everything, with going to his concerts and buying his music, all these things. So the suit, when I called him up, he asked me, "How do you want me to come that day, like dress wise?" And I said, "Just come show ready." And so what that meant to him was come in a zoot suit. And so the same zoot suit that he wore in the the day that he came to do his interview and to take his portrait, I have that in the exhibition now. So there's that. We have Lalo Guerrero stuff. We have a room dedicated to Los Lobos. We have stuff from Rage Against the Machine. Again, Zach De La Rocha came to do his portrait 2 weeks before the opening. And
and yes, everybody out there listening, you're going to see that and more. But I want to make sure that we mention the importance of women and their role in the history of East LA music. Who are some of the women artists getting there doing the exhibition?
Okay, so I have to start by saying this, and shots fired, however you want to take it. I mean this with every ounce of my heart and soul. Mark and I made it a purpose to go find the women of East LA. And when you do your research on the music of East LA, there has been no book, no documentary, no academic, no nothing that has done this. Because when it comes to the women of East LA, there's always basically three that are spoken about. And again, they deserve that highlight. Those three. So there's no hate, no judgment. But I made it a point to go find the women. We did it because it wasn't the cool thing to do at the time, because more women or anything, or it's like the dog whistle of yes, just promote women. We did it because it's the right thing to do. And the one thing that sometimes certain people hate me saying is that not only are we rewriting history, we're correcting it. And so I made it a point to go find the women and the LGBTQ community of musicians of East Los Angeles, because if it wasn't for like any revolution, you can't have a revolution without women. And it's the same thing with the music scene. Every music scene has a group of women who are in bands, who pave the way for the rest of everybody. And so I made it a point to go out and find them. So we have artists like Berta Oropesa, who was in a band called Chico, which when she came finally for me to give her a tour, she's schooling me on, she's like, "Well, I'm on that album." She starts pointing at almost everything. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm doing background vocals for that one. I'm on leads on that one." And I'm like, "What the heck?" And I knew about her, but she's teaching me all these things. And she's like, "Yeah, she's like, I forgot her last name, but Rosie from Rosie and the Originals, who sang Angel Baby, the one song that everybody knows." She's like, "Yeah, I sang with her too." I'm like, "Oh my God." So she's like one after another. Jerry Gonzalez, who was like a Vicky Carr of East LA. There's one of the people in those banners is Teresa Covarrubias, which is of the band, punk band, The Brat. again, just like Alice Bag, another one who paved the way. And we have Yolanda Ferrer, who is the co-owner of Fatima Records, which is the punk label that signed it's the Brat, the Plugs. I can't remember the other one, but there's that. But thanks to Fatima Records, Pee Wee Herman got his first record deal, and that's something that I'm hoping that they'll put in the exhibition soon, because we have the original album. So yeah. So I just want to say this again. From people only highlighting three people or three women, we have 100 women and LGBTQ community out of the 450 musicians that are in this project.
Yeah, everybody out there, when you go to, if you look closely at a lot of the stuff that's on display, you'll see a lot of familiar faces from, depending on where you're coming in, where your entrance into knowing about this history. So of course, for me, I know a lot of the stuff from the older, a lot of the older singers and songwriters, but like when you go into the 90s and the 2000s, there's people like Pilar Diaz from Los Abandoned. You'll see her picture. And then I had mentioned to you in another conversation, Piero, was the band Marble, which is, it's just kind of like an obscure band, unless you are from the area, but there's a cassette, Red Hot and Rolling. And because we had performed together at one of those, late night Chicano art shows with, Eddie Ayala, rest in peace, one of those figures with his band Sugar Skull and Los Illegals and all that. And there's a lot of those figures, and you're talking about people who, Eddie Ayala is no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago, but had he been around, I know he'd be there every day to give people tours and to tell you how everybody is, because he was one of those guys. I can't remember how he and I met, but we connected right away, and he would book us for these shows, either art shows that he was doing. He booked us at a show with Trulio Desgracias at the Waco Luz de Jesus Gallery, not the one on Melrose, but the one where it's at now. They had this space in the back, and there's all these really cool figures, but you'll see the women of that time period, and there was quite a few. So that's what I was always curious, is that make sure that women are being shown. Of course, Alice Bag, the legend, she was, I think, when they really started she's done a really good job. I've got both of her books that she came out with. If you had a copy of Decline of Western Civilization, when she's singing Gluttony with the Bags, it's one of the best scenes out of the whole film, one of the most exciting performances. And she happens to be a Chicana, 100% through and through. Yeah. So like the other people that are in, or the women that are in this project as well is Linda Ronstadt. And again, just like Brenton Wood, I had the pleasure of interviewing her for the Los Lobos documentary, and we were hanging out at her house, and we talked about just everything. But what I found out later is that, and I found this out through Cesar Rosas of Los Lobos, is that she was so shy to give Los Lobos a cassette that she got her roommate to give it to Caesar. And Caesar's like, "Oh, what's this?" He's like, "Well, it's from Linda. She wants you to hear it. She's very shy about giving this to you, and she doesn't think that it's good or she's doing it right, and super kind of insecure about it all." And so he pops it in, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." He's like, "What? So what is this? What, like, it's Linda singing?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh my God, but what is it?" And he's like, "It's her new album that she's gonna put out, but she wants to get a blessing from you guys because you guys actually do it right." And he's like, "Oh, great." And he's like, "Come to find out, it's Canciones de mi Padre." So if she would have never gotten the blessing from Los Lobos, who knows if Canciones de mi Padre would have ever come out. Did she do the demo with, was it Mariachi Vargas?
You got me on that one, dude.
Yeah, I was wondering. Oh, wow, I would love to hear that demo.
Isn't it Los Camperos?
Los Camperos was the group that she worked with. I get those two mixed up.
Yeah, I think it might be Mariachi Vargas. Yeah.
It's one of the good ones. One of the good ones.
Yeah, and then look, thanks. For the longest time I would say this backwards too, but after that album comes out, if my dates are correct, Los Lobos commit commercial suicide right after. With you know what they did? You know the album?
Oh, I mean, Pistola y la Corazón.
Pistola del Corazón.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they do that and they end up winning the Grammy as well. So.
Oh yeah, amazing.
But
that
yeah,
was a very brave thing for them to do, and it was such a good. It is aged well, like year after year when it comes up, and you're like, wow, if only we had the balls to do that, the guts to do something like that at that point in our career after being so associated with La Bamba and everything like that. It's just like I always wonder if I'm sure they still enjoy playing La Bamba, but it's just like wow, that's a great album. Yeah, exactly. Well, let like I said, everybody out there listening, the best thing to do, you've gotten to know Piero's backstory just a little bit, because trust me, he has a lot to share. A lot of the other things that he's working on. Of course, he's working on the documentary with Los Lobos.
That means I talk a lot.
No. The thing about it is, it's like he's a great person to interview because, like I said, he and I knew we were going to connect right away, and I know what I would be able to ask him. But for the sake of our interview, because I want to make sure that everybody goes to see the exhibition, which is going on right now at La Plaza de Culturas y Artes at 501 North Main Street in downtown Los Angeles. If you want to find more information, just look up La Plaza de Culturas y Artes and a great day in East L.A. On Google, and you'll find it. But the web address to the museum is lapca.org, and it's going to be running now through August 23rd, 2026.
Break time. We'll be back. It's the Bakotunes podcast with Matt Munoz.
Hey, you! I'm talking to you! I need a beer. Bring me some beer now. Tráeme cerveza! How come you're not here with a beer yet? I want a beer now! Cerveza!
¿Cerveza? Sí, cómo no, sí. Aquí tiene un tall boy.
So what are your plans for the rest of the exhibition run? I know that you did have like a show with one of the tierras, and we don't need to go into that with one of the tierras. But what other plans do you have to celebrate and to kind of keep some momentum going with the exhibition run?
One of the events that we're going to do is that thanks to the LA County Library, I'm going to be speaking at the LA County Library in downtown Los Angeles with and I confirmed already the moderator, professor and journalist Ruben Martinez. Mm-hmm. I have Yolanda Ferrer, which was one of the first female owner of a record label out of Los Angeles, and there's a few other people that I'm in the works of getting. A musical guest will be Very Be Careful that day.
Yeah,
they just played a vallenato band out of Los Angeles. Go ahead. You were going to say that.
Yeah, no, they're so fun. They're so fun. If you see, I brought Very Be Careful. This is one of those funny things is that I would just run into these bands randomly at some show, or one of my friends would say, "Hey, you should come out, check out this band, Very Be Careful." And next thing you know, I'm bringing them to Bakersfield. Like you said, that we played with Very Be Careful at UCLA at one of those. It was like a student from Bakersfield was in one of the Chicano clubs on the campus of UCLA, and says, "Hey, we're doing this kind of cultural fest thing, and I want to bring a band from Bakersfield." Brought us, and that's how we met Very Be Careful. And just a legendary vallenato band. I mean, they're
great,
wild guys, man. I mean, when we had them play with us here, I mean, it was just like they turned it out. And I know they're still celebrating. I don't know how many years, maybe about 30 years, 25, 30 years.
I think it's 30 years.
Yeah. So, okay, you're going to have Very Be Careful. Keep on going.
And I was going to say, even Arturo, who's one of the members of Very Be Careful, mm-hmm. he was one of the installers for the exhibition as well. So not only is he in the exhibition or the project and the exhibition, he's installing it as well. So, yeah. So and then I'll keep it there because there's a few more people that I'm working on getting, and maybe we have a Lobo, maybe we have, who knows?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, I know. Well, you got plenty of time because you got all the way. You're like, thank God it's going all the way till August 23rd, 2026. So everybody out there listening, you have time. There's no excuse. I know right now when you're listening to this, the holidays are going on, but like at the beginning of the year, you start planning out your vacations. You want something to do when you go to LA. There's so many museums, amazing museums in LA, and not just all the big ones, but the day that me and some of my coworkers went to go visit the La Plaza to check out this exhibition, we also went and got a sneak preview of the new Corita museum. We went over there to see the Corita museum. If you don't know who Corita is, she has a story all her own. Look her up. And there's so many small kind of niche museum, if you want to just put it that way, depending on how your level of museums are. There's the big ones, of course. There's LACMA, MoCA, and et cetera, and down the line. But there's so many other smaller ones. And that's where every time when I ask for recommendations of museums to visit, they say, you got to go to La Plaza, because that's where the stuff that you're going to really dig. This is the stuff that people who are really looking for like the heart and soul of LA, a lot of history, you're going to go to museums like that. And I can't think of a better place right now than La Plaza de Culturas y Artes in LA to see and experience a great day in East L.A. celebrando the Eastside Sounds. Now, is there, if you were to pick 3 songs, let's talk about music now. If you were to pick 3 songs associated with the exhibition that would help get somebody in the mood and ready to experience a great day in East L.A., what would they be?
First time ever being asked this question. And I'm going to have to say, well, look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rooms. The moment you walk into the first part, we call that the venue. The moment you walk into that venue, I would say you would have to listen to the Midnighters, Whittier Boulevard.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Wonderful. Let's take a trip down to...
Let's take a trip down Whittier Boulevard!
Right, yeah.
All right, that's one.
So then you go into, after that, you walk into the Rockero store, because when you go see a band live for the first time, you fall in love with them. So once you go to that show, what do? Go to the record store, or as our generation would go, to the record store. Mm-hmm. And you you go to the record store and you start buying the albums, you start looking at the posters, you start looking at all the magazines that are introducing you and giving you the news of the scene and all this stuff. So there's so many cool things. I would say you would have to listen to either Ozu Motley from the first album. It would have to be...
I already know the song from that album.
Which song do you think?
It would be Cut Chemist Sweet.
Yes, that would be the one.
Right?
And that has a taste of everything that they do.
The aristocrat, get no diplomat, and I'm blessed with the gift of rap. It's like that. The aristocrat, get no diplomat, and I'm blessed with the gift of rap. It's like that. Yeah, it's like that, yo. It's like that, everybody out there, yo. It's like that. My name is Tuna Fish, yo. It's like that, and we all goes over my feet. It's like that, yo. The aristocrat, get no diplomat, and I'm blessed with the gift of rap. It's like that.
And then
all right, that's 2. What's 3?
And so from the Rockero store, you make the left into the garage, aka the garage / interactive room. And in there, I would say you would have to listen to Tierra and the song Together, which is their famous song.
Shoot 'em up, baby.
in the far corner, which is hidden, and I wish it wasn't like this, there's a photograph of the Salas brothers, Rudy and Steve Salas, when they were kids, because they were in a band called the Salas Brothers, and then they went to the Jaguars, and then from the Jaguars they created Tierra. We were the first to do in this project and exhibition to do this. Before the brothers had beef, and they didn't talk for years. But if you click on that QR code or take a photo of the QR code that's there, it'll take you to a link, and it's the first time ever that before the guys passed away, they were writing a song together. And it was the first time in many, many years that they were working on a song. So it's the only place that you can listen to that song right now. That's never been heard before there. So I would say Tierra, but I also want to say this about the first as well. We're the first to say, only a few people know this, but for the rest of the world to know, we're the first to say that the band Mazzy Star, Hope Sandoval, who's the singer, is from East L.A. A lot of people didn't know that. East L.A. / Boyle Heights. We're the first to say that Jackson Browne is from East L.A. and proudly from East L.A.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're the first to say that Tom Waits, yes, that Tom Waits is from East L.A. So I'm very happy to say all that. So the next room, once you're done in the garage, which is again the birthplace of every band.
Yeah.
You go on to what happened to me. Is you become political and you go to Radio Rebelde, is that room. And in that room, it's obviously either Rage Against the Machine, Asa Underground, or Unión 13. So, or La Resistencia would be another band, a ska-core band. But yeah, so my first choice, Rolling Down Rodeo by Rage Against the Machine. So you go in there.
Yeah, I'm rolling down Rodeo with the shotgun. These people ain't seen the brown skin man since their grandparents bought one. So now I'm rolling down Rodeo with the shotgun. These people ain't seen the brown skin man since their grandparents bought one.
And then you go to the next room. And in that room, it's East Los to the World. And in that room, there's one of my photographs that I took of from at the Hollywood Bowl. I got hired to shoot there one day, and it's literally a sold out crowd. And the debate back and forth with the museum was, all right, do we show the photo from the stage out, looking at the crowd, or do we do it from the crowd down to the stage? And I decided to do the down to the stage because that's the first place where dreams start. Mm-hmm. So when you see this band, then you want to try to do that. So you have this big photograph. And in that room, I would say it's either Let's Get Started or Get It Started by the Black Eyed Peas or the new will.i.am Taboo song called East L.A., which I'm happy to say that will.i.am and Taboo both told me that when we did the photograph for this project, Taboo said an hour later, Will calls me and says, hey, we need to do a song about East LA. I feel so inspired after doing this photo shoot.
OG veterano say ora. You can see me with the homies on the corner. Cholos on the GT performer. Rest in peace for the homie at the corner. Damn. They say the Judas coming better correle. Homie had a cuete, he threw it away. He don't want a problem with the trucka. This fool served 5 years for the coca. I was raised up with some Aztec warriors. Homies from the barrio, those are my supporters. I love Mexicanas from the border. Make her my wife so ice going to Torah. No.
So that song that's out there right now with will.i.am and Taboo,
yeah,
I think that would win. So East Los to the World talks about all the artists that have made an impact to the rest of the world. How East LA isn't just this little place that everyone lives in this bubble. It actually is influencing culture and creating culture all at the same time. You know, world culture at the same time. So it's that one.
Right.
And then from there, you go into the Los Lobos room. So from the Los Lobos room, which is called Come On, Let's Go. Let's see. I would start with we have never before seen photographs of Richie Valens in there. So we can either play La Bamba for Richie Valens, or we can go where it started all for Los Lobos, which was How Will the Wolves Survive? Even though Just a Man is one of my favorite songs, because that guitar solo in that song is freaking amazing. But I would say Will the Wolves Survive?
Oh, wow. Yes. I love that album. So many memories, being 16 and going and partying in Ensenada and getting into those bars and dancing with women that were much older than we were, and us coming back alive.
You know what? Can I tell you a story about how impactful East L.A. is to like that? Sorry, I just want to say.
No, please do.
I'm in it. So everyone, there's Tepoztlan, is it by Cuernavaca, and there's Tepoztlan, 45 minutes away from Mexico City. So I'm in Tepoztlan, small little town, and out of nowhere, I start hearing Ozomali, Como Ves, and I'm like, the hell? And it's like, but it was weird because it's like they were fading it up as it started. They're just like they're pulling up the faders on it. And I'm like, dude, am I hearing things? And I just happened to pull over to make a call, and I look over and I'm next to a bar, and oh my God, I'm like, okay, I have two options. Do I get out of the car and be like, oh my God, those are my friends? Or just kind of like let it be and just record it and send it to the guys. But yes, that's how, no matter where you're at in the world, I've had this millions of times. Even my ex told me the same thing. Be careful who you make enemies with in East LA, because someone around the world knows someone from East LA. And it's true, because I've been in Cuba and they're like, oh yeah, that's my cousin so-and-so. And I'm like, dude, what? We know so-and-so. And they're like, oh my God. And then I'm in Italy. Oh my God, yeah, we're friends with Bo. And it's just like, what the heck? Or I'm in Mexico, and it's just like, or anywhere in the world. It's just, if someone knows someone from East LA, and it's freaking amazing how the influence has gone so far and wide. And the same thing, there's like the Los Lobos manager says it best. He's like, you have to think about Los Lobos like this, and mostly if you're telling their story, is that whoever your favorite artist is, like mostly classic rock or anything, 99.9% of the time, their favorite artist is Los Lobos. Now, who is he referring to? Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's favorite band is Los Lobos. Robert Plant, lead singer of Led Zeppelin, his favorite band is Los Lobos. Neil Young, and the list goes on. B.B. King, he loved Los Lobos.
Yeah, they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We're working on it. It's oh, that's good. That's good. I was looking, so I'm in my little home studio right here at my home, and I'm looking on the wall, because I forgot about this. This is how much I love Los Lobos and how much they mean to me, and just like the band does to Piero. Is that in 2007 when I was writing for the Bakersfield, California, and I was part of a staff for a Hispanic publication written in English, and the niche department was called Mercado Nuevo, and Los Lobos were coming to the Kern County Fair, and they said, well, of course, Matt, would you want to interview Los Lobos? Of course I do. So they had like a 2-hour conversation with Louis Perez, and they submitted the story. It's called Los Lobos, Still Hungry, Still Leading the Pack. And I won an award. That was my first writing award. I won a Jose Marti writing award. And it was really special because it was like, this is the one. And I have a copy of the cover. I had it blown up, and I had each member of the band sign it because I got to present them an award on stage. And there's some pictures of me, and and it was like, I remember David Hidalgo, because I did the whole thing. I said, you know what? This is the best way to experience the music of Los Lobos if you're alone, is just to close your eyes and play the music and the Mexican American experience will just come alive in your mind.
Yeah.
It will just come alive. Wow. And that's what you need to look for. And he was just like, hey, bro, he's so soft-spoken. Man, you wanted to make me cry. I was like, I want to cry because you just said that. Yeah. But it was like, as you could see, if fans of Los Lobos, we have this thing about us, like we're just drawn to each other because we know how much they mean to us. Because it was like I said, even like when it happened with Ozomali, before Ozomali, is you saw Los Lobos getting these accolades, when they won the Grammy for And a Time to Dance. And they were talking, and he told me that story, and I'm sure you've heard it. How they were just on the road in a crappy hotel, and then they win a Grammy, and they're going nuts. It's like we got to see people that look like us. They look like you look like your neighborhood Chicano musician, and they get raised up to that. And then La Bamba happens. It's like, wow, you know what? Hey, I think it's worth for us to give more time into pursuing this musical dream, because if it can happen to Los Lobos, it could happen to us. And so when it happened to Ozomali, it was the same thing. And so that's why people need to go out and they need to check out this exhibition, because these young artists that are out there and they have those dreams. We all know that now with the state of the music industry, it's even harder for people to break through and for people to sustain a career as an artist. It is so hard. We were had this conversation about, you need funding, and, now the way the music industry is structured, you don't need a label. You can go out there and do your thing, but you need to go and see, the people who did the walking so that you can run. And I highly suggest everybody, you got to go check out A Great Day in East L.A., Celebrando the Eastside Sounds at La Plaza de Culturas y Artes. It's located at 501 North Main Street in downtown Los Angeles. You're going to visit their website at lapca.org. It's running now through August 23rd, 2026. I'm joined by Creator, the mastermind, baby. Let's just put it out there. Let's put it out there, man. He's the guy. He's the guy behind the guy behind the guy behind everything. Piero F. Giunti. He is the curator and the man. Like, what else can we say about this beautiful thing? Let's kind of put the mic is yours. Let's get people over there to Plaza. The mic is yours, bro.
So, thank you, bro. What I'm going to say is that you can also follow on Instagram at A Great Day in East L.A. That's one place that I would recommend for you to follow, because when the museum only can post so much, and if you want to know more information about the exhibition and the project, I post a lot on Instagram. Also, you can find A Great Day in East LA on Facebook. And I would also say, if you want to see the rest of my work, you can go to on Instagram as well at Visionary Rebel and the number 2, so Visionary Rebel 2. And you can go to my website, www.pierofgiunti.com, and you can see all of my projects that I'm working on, latest, my other work that I've done. I've worked with everyone from Ice Cube, Public Enemy, and Becky G, to Tigres del Norte. And what I would say is to continue what you were saying, Matt, about dreams and following, your heart with the art that you want to make. This, like I said earlier, this literally came to me in a dream. I've been the kid who is a huge fan of music, who's a huge fan of art, and that all of these people are my heroes. So who knew that years later, Los Lobos, for example, are, again, I'm that 3-year-old kid that loves Los Lobos, and fast forward, they know my name, and they're calling me family. And that's one of the things that I've always looked up to artists that are genuine like that, and artists who, the same way. Los Lobos, their story is very parallel to a lot of us, that started with nothing and got to where they're at. Again, I've got to meet a lot of my heroes because of just following my dreams and following my passion for music and photography. And so I will always recommend people to network with everyone and their mother, literally, because sometimes their mom will help you to get to where you got to get to. And yeah, so who knew that 10 years later, I'd create the largest oral history and portrait project to ever be done of the musicians of Los Angeles, focusing on East LA, at a museum that ends up doing this exhibition that makes it the largest exhibition that I've ever done, not only space-wise, but in the amount of artifacts that we've collected. And who knew that it'd be the first time to actually highlight the women of East LA in a proper way, and make sure that their stories are represented as well. And it's not just about the same 10 names that we hear about the musicians of East L.A., which again, they deserve that recognition, but this is trying to not leave anybody behind. The joke that I make is, I'm going to age myself here. So as we determined that I graduated high school in 2003, and the president that was around then was George W. Bush, is that he had this thing of leaving no child behind. And I said, through that, we're not gonna leave any musician behind. So again, I went out and again, trying to find as many people as I can. And this is a forever project. So think about it. A musician's born every day. So if I really wanted to go on forever, I could until the people stop making musicians.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, very well said. I can't say it better myself. Everybody go out there. Like I said, if you want to, depending on where you're listening to our interview, if you're listening to on the terrestrial radio show, streaming through KPCR Pirate Cat Radio during Bakotunes on Tuesday nights, or you're listening to the Bakotunes podcast where you can hear the full interview. If you go into the episode information box, I will be hyperlinking every link that he said, because we want to make sure that nobody, gets lost. And, if you can't remember all the names because you're listening to the interview and you're all caught up in our wonderful conversation, is just go into the information box and then I'll hyperlink everything. So it'll just make it easy on you. And if you want to reach out to Piero and have him speak at maybe one of your schools, there's obviously a huge education component to this. I'm sure you would be excited to go speak at one of the schools in LA or around the Central Valley. Isn't that right, Piero?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
we spoke 2 years ago, last year, to 1,500 kids from the Riverside School District. So
it's fantastic. All right. Well, brother, thank you so much for being on the show and for giving me all your time and being so candid. Like I said, we could speak about a million things because there are so many ways that he and I are connected. And I'm in Bakersfield, I'm in the Central Valley, but I told people this time and time again, and I told Piero, is that the time that I spent in LA living, interning in that rock en español scene and at the Grammys and kind of like various levels, was that the shows that I had done with Mento Buru, East L.A. really welcomed this band from Bakersfield, ska reggae band in the 90s. It just took one show to instantly become like brothers to so many amazing musicians. And a lot of these people are still friends to this day. We're talking about the guys from Very Be Careful, the guys from Ozo, Las Cafeteras, is that a lot of those groups have come through Bakersfield because of the friendships that we struck up, maybe just me going to see them being at a festival in Echo Park, or our bands being teamed up on some, 10-band show at 1 a.m. at some warehouse off of Cesar Chavez Boulevard. But it all comes back. And so when I walked into that exhibition, I'm telling you, it touched me. And it's going to touch you too. And it's going to teach you a lot out there. It doesn't matter if you're Latino, if you're a güero, it doesn't matter what nationality or culture. If you love music, you're going to know these songs. You're going to know those artists. And it's just going to make it a much more fulfilling experience. So on that note, thank you so much, brother. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Thanks, brother.
Peace.
Bye.
The Bakotunes podcast with Matt Munoz. New episodes every week. And for the latest, be sure to follow us at Bakotunes on Instagram. That's BAKOTUNES. And be sure to like us, rate us, comment at us, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back next time.